when it all came out, and I was like, well, it's over. My life's over. I'm gonna be in a square box and sing for the next 20
now
years.
You're in a square box doing a podcast.
Yeah, I'm gonna be shaking in some corner, And it couldn't have been the opposite. I couldn't have had more support and people understanding and people wanting to help me and all that. And I should have done that 20 years before that.
You are on the 14th Step. It's a podcast about addiction and recovery. My name is Mark. I'm a professional counselor and a recovering addict.
Hey, my name is Skip. I'm a recovering addict and a recovery coach. Today we have a
something's different today.
Something's different. And then there were three. We have special guests today. The director of the Billy T. Cattan Recovery Outreach Center in Victoria, Texas, Mr. Daniel Barrientos. Hello, Daniel.
Thank you, Skip.
Thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely.
We got some good topics to talk about today.
We do. Me and Skip both work for Billy T. Cattan Recovery Outreach Center. I've been a counselor there for 8 or 9 years now.
If you don't know about Victoria, Texas, we are a metropolis on the Gulf Coast of about 3.5 million people. I'm completely lying right now. We're on the Gulf Coast of Texas, right?
We are, but we serve a big geographic area.
We really do. Victoria's a little weird.
Yeah, and the outreach part of Billy T. Cattan is really what inspired this podcast.
It did.
We wanted to kind of spread the message of recovery to as wide of an audience as possible. And I'm wondering, Daniel, what does the outreach part mean to you? Why is that important as a treatment facility to have an outreach program?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why it's important. But one of the biggest ones is that we always try to break down the stigma that surrounds substance use and mental health, all those different things. And us being able to be out there and educate the public as much as we can is a lot of the outreach that we do and that we're trying to do. Of course, we're doing more and more as we get and add staff and have the resources to be able to do that. But, going out there and doing presentations in the community, doing all these different social media things just to get the word out that, being in treatment is not a bad thing, or being in recovery is not a bad thing. Doesn't make you any less of a person. And unfortunately, there's people out there who still think that, and so we have to fight that every day and try to break that stigma.
Well, we mentioned Victoria as being a little odd. I have found out through being a part of Billy T. Cattan that we're part of. It's a nickname called the Golden Crescent because of the way Texas bends. It's almost like a little bit of a quarter moon on the Gulf Coast, and we are sort of in the middle of 13 counties that rehabilitation world calls dark, or is there are no resources. So Victoria is the population center for all these counties in rural areas that struggle big time with addictions and stuff like that. And Victoria is the only place that's, I guess you would say, local without going to a huge city and having the right kind of insurance and all this, because that's the other thing about Billy T. Cattan is it helps people that maybe can't afford traditional rehabilitation services, right?
Yeah,
Right.
Tell us about, for those of you that don't know, Daniel, tell us about the services that Billy Cattan offers to people in our area.
Sure. So our main focus obviously is the outpatient treatment, but there's a lot of different things that play into that. A lot of people have misconceptions, I guess, if for lack of a better word, on how outpatient works, or how that you have to have insurance to get into outpatient, or you have to have X amount of funds to do this, or I can't afford it, or whatever the case may be. Well, one of the things about us is that we're state funded through Health and Human Services, and so that allows people who are indigent, who don't have insurance, who cannot afford the treatment, to receive those services. But like with anything else, there are processes and protocols that you have to follow. Unfortunately, when somebody's looking for treatment, it just doesn't happen right that second to be able to get in, because there's so many different things that you have to do, especially when somebody's looking to get help with financially
Sure.
through the state,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know people call me all the time, and one of the main questions that people have is like, what do I do? People don't really know about the kind of services that are available, and they don't really know, it's always kind of like it could be a parent, or it could be a brother, or
Spouse,
a spouse. And they just kind of cold call, and they're like, this is what my husband or my wife or my son is going through. What do I do? And I think one of the really cool parts about working in a state-funded facility is that it breaks a lot of the barriers down to someone getting treatment, but there's still a process.
Absolutely.
Right.
I think a lot of this education and outreach and just getting a conversation going is to let people know that it's okay to talk about this stuff. And that if you can just call and get it started, you can at least get someone access to help. And then, of course, it's a challenge of people that actually want to get help, too.
Well, and if you notice when people call, I think they have you mentioned stigma. There's something in their mind they're ashamed to call, or they're ashamed that their child is struggling with this, or their spouse. They don't know how to say it the right way, and they don't know what to do. And then when the conversation finally gets started, and they go, "Oh, wait a second, this isn't that bad." And then all of a sudden, it's almost like a light goes off, and they're like, "I can get some help here, and it's easier than I thought it was, and I don't have to feel." That's a real struggle getting people the help. I think is them overcoming their own bad misconceptions of what drug abuse or substance abuse is.
Yeah.
I think part of the vision of what we do is getting the message out, being a part of the community. And I'm wondering, Daniel, what do you see moving forward for Billy Cattan? What kind of services do you see us offering in the future?
That's a really good question, and we're very fortunate here in Victoria to be able to, first of all, have a big outpatient program that we have now, and have very qualified counselors to be able to implement the different things that we do. But going forward, one of the big things that's missing in our community is the full continuum of care for substance use disorders and co-occurring disorders. And so we are in the process of raising funds to build an inpatient facility that'll have detox and also have residential, and then from residential people will be able to move on into outpatient if they desire. So that's really exciting, news for Victoria and all the surrounding communities.
It is.
Because, as we know here locally, the closest facility like that is going to be at least 90 miles away in Corpus, right?
Right.
And so, we'll be able to treat the people around here at our own facility.
Yeah, and all those counties around us, those rural areas, are going to have access to full continuum, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say are the advantages of having a residential treatment center and an outpatient treatment center versus just having an outpatient center? Like what's the main difference that people can expect from getting inpatient care?
Yeah. Well, outpatient is really for people who had, a mild diagnosis, right? That's what's appropriate for people in outpatient. And of course, as we all know here sitting at the table, that everybody's different.
Yep.
Everybody comes in with different unique challenges and circumstances. But, one of the good things about having both programs is that, somebody that comes in and needs detox, because we all know that detox is a very dangerous situation that people can be in, right? And a lot of people don't know this, but somebody who's detoxing from alcohol is actually a very dangerous thing to be detoxing from. And then we have, of course, opioids that people detox from as well, and methamphetamine. But we'll be able to send those people to detox and make sure that they're medically detoxing from the substance that they're using. And then once people, and we don't want people just to go to detox and then leave as soon as they're done, right? We want people to, that's the beauty of this, we want people to gradually go into the inpatient care for, 30, 45 days or whatever. Like I said, it depends on the person. And then from there, then, they'll go into the outpatient program.
I feel like there's this whole, like you said, continuum of care. Like there's this whole kind of circle that people can go through where they can go to an inpatient program, go to outpatient afterwards, have an alumni program after that, get hooked up with a recovery coach like Skip. So there's this whole range where you can really work with someone from point A to point B because recovery takes time.
It does.
I mean, this is not a short-term solution.
It's not. I mean, as we know, like an outpatient, I mean, we have people there that are up to, 90 days,
That's
you know,
right.
and so 90 days is not a long time, you know.
And you have people that try again and again too before they get it.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's like, when you have a medical condition, you know, when you go to the doctor the first time, you're not going to be magically cured.
Right.
It's going to take some effort from that person. And I think that's another important thing is, is that people have to be ready to get the help, right? I mean, they have to get to that point where they want to make the change and are ready to make the change.
When you're talking about building an inpatient facility, I mean, this is like building a whole hospital, basically.
Basically.
And called Hope Ranch.
Yep.
So
Hope Ranch.
what are the
love that
challenges? Yeah, I think it's a great name. What are the challenges that come with building something like this?
Money. I think it's
because this is not a small project.
No.
Right. Well, and the thing is that we're a homegrown organization.
Yeah.
We're a community-based organization, and so the funds that we're going to use to build this facility are going to come from our community, for the biggest part of that. From different foundations, things like that. But it takes the community to build a facility like this, so we are able to offer the help that people need in a timely manner.
Have you gotten a good response from the community and doing their outreach stuff and talking about it and doing a capital campaign and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been overwhelmingly. Everybody's been very supportive, and definitely see the need for having a facility in our community. That'll be able to help lots of people for many generations to come. Now we just have to raise the funds to build it.
And there's some exciting news about the fundraising stuff too, isn't there?
There is. Are you talking about the
Yeah,
Astros?
I'm talking about your Astros cap there.
Yeah, we have our annual Hope and Recovery Luncheon, and this year all the proceeds we make from the luncheon are going to go towards the campaign, the capital campaign for Hope Ranch. So we're really excited about that. And we're even more excited about our keynote speaker this year, Jeff Bagwell from the Astros. So pretty sure everybody around here anyway knows who Jeff Bagwell is.
I'm looking forward to that. Last year was that win from my Dallas Cowboys.
From the Dallas Cowboys.
It pains you to say it.
And he was good. Jeff Bagwell's got a great story too.
Absolutely.
So he's going to be great.
Yes, he'll talk a little bit about his journey in recovery and how he was able to overcome that and still, it's an everyday thing that we have to do, right? So we're really excited for him to share that story with everyone. And these are the types of things, like Mark was saying earlier, that helps educate people and helps break that stigma, just getting out there and talking about treatment and recovery.
Well, especially, if I'm someone who's kind of iffy about it and I've struggled with addiction or drinking or something, and then I see someone like Jeff Bagwell who's willing to get up there and talk about his own story, that really makes me feel a lot more comfortable.
Absolutely.
And it's like, well, if he can get up there and tell the whole world, then maybe I can do that too, or maybe I can make that call or feel a little bit less embarrassed about getting help. So I think that's not only a fundraising opportunity, but that's a really tremendous outreach opportunity for us too.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why we're started this podcast, is we're just trying to get the topic out there that we can talk about it in a regular way, so people aren't so keep that over there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's not over there anymore. It's in everybody's lives in some way or another, and if we don't talk about it, it's not going to. We're not going to have this type of thing that we can do, or we're not going to have outreach, and we're not going to be able to go into these communities and maybe get to the root of this issue, because it's turning into a big issue.
It is. If you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say when Skip was talking about the stigma is that I've been in the field of treatment for about 20 years now, and we've definitely taken some big strides in where we were back then and where we are now, as far as trying to break the stigma, but it's still out there. You know, I mean, I've witnessed it for myself 2 times in the last 2 weeks. From people talking about different things, language maybe as well, and so it's still out there. So I think that the work is never finished, right?
Right.
So.
Yeah.
It's not, but it's definitely made some big strides.
Yeah,
I mean, even
absolutely.
in the policy and the way that people are handled legally these days is a lot different than it was 20 years ago. Because now we have a drug court here,
Yep.
a
DWI
pretrial,
court.
and a DWI court, and so it's really focused more on a treatment perspective or a let's get people help perspective rather than just a more punitive kind of like, penalty approach or whatever.
Right.
And that is going to help, because they look at it as if they get caught or get found out that they can get help instead of just be thrown somewhere, because that's what they think.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what they think. I just had somebody I talked to recently. It's the same situation. I get a mother or a grandparent or a wife that will call and say, "Hey, this is happening. What do I do?" And I'm like, "Well, they have to come to us, and before we can do. There's no way I'm going to just show up and start talking about with him, because that's going to completely freak them out, and they're not going to want to admit anything and talk about the problem. They have to come to a point of coming to us, and if we can't make that easier for them, they won't do it. And by easier, I mean where they're not ashamed,
right?
Nearly as ashamed, or they think that their name gets put on some kind of list where everybody's going to see it, or all their private information is. It couldn't be more opposite of that. Once they get into it, you know what I mean. We're here. We want to help them, not hurt their lifestyle or their reputation or something. You know.
Right.
And I've struggled with that myself, man. I kept it a secret for many many
you were
many
someone
years.
that was in the public eye in a way.
Completely. I was in ministry. I'm a pastor at a church, and the idea of me letting my church and my fellow pastors know that I was struggling with substance abuse, there was no way I was going to admit that. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there at home, and my wife knows and all that, and she that ate her up stress-wise, just because she knew that I was keeping that a secret. And then finally, when it all came out, and I was like, well, it's over. My life's over. I'm going to be in a square box in Sing Sing for the next 20 years.
Now you're in a square box doing a podcast.
Yeah, I'm going to be shaking in some corner, And it couldn't have been the opposite. I couldn't have had more support and people understanding and people wanting to help me and all that. And I should have done that 20 years before that. And that was all in my head.
One of the, I guess, sad things is that, alcohol use disorder, substance use disorder, it was back in the, I want to say maybe 60s or so, that it was, that the medical association said that it was it's the medical model. Yeah. And we're still fighting the stigma, years and years later, know. But we got to keep fighting.
Yeah.
We do, and one of the ways that you can help is if you have a story, your own personal story of recovery, and you're watching this, please share that with us in the comments. We would love to feature your story on a podcast. We really love to hear from you guys. That's one of the main reasons that we're doing this. So leave us a comment, like, subscribe, all those things, and help us share the message.
Yes, please ring that bell.
Ring the bell, guys.
Smash that like button.
Yeah.
We need you to.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.